Alright, so today we're going to discuss how to solve quadratic equations by taking the square. Okay, so pag sinabi natin kasing solving quadratic equations, we have 4 methods. So the first one is getting the square root. Okay, and the second one is by factoring. Okay, and the third would be by completing the square. And then the fourth would be by using the quadratic formula. So, ang gagamitin natin ngayon is by extracting the square root. So, by extracting the square root. Okay, before we begin, okay, so, dapat alam natin kung ano yung mga perfect squares or yung may mga numbers na nakukuha natin yung square root. So, for example, 1 squared. Okay, so 1 squared is just 1. Okay, 2 squared is 4. Oh, how about 3 squared? What is 3 squared? Okay, so 3 squared is actually 9. And then 4 squared is 16. Paano ko nalalaman yun? Okay, when you say squared, actually, you multiply it by itself. So, halimbawa, 2 times 2, that is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, ang tawag natin dito sa 1, 4, 9, and 16, we call them perfect square. So, bakit? Kasi pagka kinuha mo yung square root niya, pabaliktad naman yung operation. So, instead na, pagka minumultiply nyo sa sarili niya, that would be squared. Tapos, ang inverse operation niya is yung get the square root. So, halimbawa, square root of 1 is equal to positive or negative 1. Okay, so, halimbawa, square root of 4, that is positive or negative 2. Bakit positive or negative? Kasi, when you multiply negative 2 by itself, negative 2 times negative 2, it's still 4. So, when you take the square root of 4, that is positive or negative 2. Okay, so square root of 9 equals positive or negative 3. And how about square root of 16? Okay, sige. Write it in the chat box. Ano ang square root ng 16? Okay, so ang square root ng 16 is actually, okay, very good. That would be positive or negative 4, and so on. Okay, so 5 squared is 25. So, ang square root ng 25 is positive or negative 5. Now, oops. Okay, so now, we move on sa susunod. Okay, how do we solve quadratic equation? Sorry, may maingay sa labas. Okay, so how do we solve quadratic equations? By extracting the square root. So, let us have some example. Okay, so, let's have example number 1. So, for example, we have x squared minus 25 equals 0. Okay, we know that 25, okay, is a perfect square. Okay, so, ang gagawin lang natin, itong ano na to, mapapansin ninyo, itong given na to, wala siyang b or walang coefficient yung x. So, binomial lang siya. We have x squared and then we have 25. Okay, so dalawa lang siya. So, ang mangyayari niyan, this is x squared. Okay, and now, etong negative 25, ililipat nyo sa kabila. So, magkakaroon tayo ng yung negative magiging positive. So, ngayon, magiging 25. Now, sa rule ng equation, kung ano yung gagawin mo sa kaliwa, yun din yung gagawin mo sa kanan. So, ang gagawin natin is we take the square root of both sides. Ang square root ng x squared ay x. Kasi, magka-cancel tong square root and square dahil sila ay inverse operation. Now, kanina, pinag-usapan natin ang square root ng perfect square. So, ano ang square root ng 25? That would be, okay, positive and negative 5. So, ang sagot natin ngayon ay x equals negative 5. Okay. Okay? And then, x equals 5. So, dalawa yung magiging sagot natin. So, negative 5 and then 5. Okay, now let's move on to the next example. So, what if you have x squared minus 49? Okay. X squared minus 49. What is the first step that we are going to do? Okay, so, following the example in number 1, yung 49, di ba wala nga siyang coefficient sa gitna. 0. So, wala yung x. So, x squared minus 49 lang. So, ang gagawin natin is, what? We transpose this to the other side. So, we get x squared equals, okay, since negative yon dito sa kaliwa, pagka nilipat mo sa kanan, would be positive. So, that would be 49. Okay. And then the next step is we take the square root. Okay, so we take the square root. Okay, so, ito, magka-cancel yung square and square root. Okay, ito naman, kukunin natin yung square root ng 49. So, that would be, okay, positive and negative what? Okay, so write it in the chat box or write it in your notes. Okay, if you're watching this from the class or from the post. Okay, so actually the square root of 49 is 7. Okay, so dalawa yung magiging sagot natin. X equals negative 7 and x equals 7. So dalawa. Okay. Now, for number 3, okay, what if you have something like this? 3x squared, okay, minus 27 equals 0. Okay, so the first thing that you notice in number 3, why is it different from number 1 and number 2? Yung a natin, di ba, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Yung a natin ay hindi siya 1. Okay, so meron kang 3 dito. So, paano natin yun gagawin? So, let's find out. Okay, so ang unang natin gagawin, again, is we transpose negative 27 to the other side. So, yung 3x, isusulat natin, 3x squared equals, okay, so negative 27 becomes 27. Okay, the next thing is we want to remove 3. Okay, so para mawala yung 3 doon, we divide both sides by 3. So we write it again, 3 squared equals 27. So we divide both sides by 3. Okay, so 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we cancel that. So this is just x squared. And then 27 divided by 3, so that would be 9. Okay. So, pareho na ng form nun dun sa dalawa. Okay, so x squared equals 9. Again, we take the square root of both sides. Makakancel yung squared and square root. Okay, so ang mangyayari dito is x equals, what is the square root of 9? Okay, so the square root of 9 is actually positive or negative 3. So we have x equals negative 3 and then x equals 3. Okay, so that is how we solve using extracting the square root. Okay, so we have still 3 more. Okay, so before we end, let me give you some more examples. Pero this time, di ba sabi ko ako, ngayon tayo. Okay, so tayo, let's go to the next one. Okay, so next one. Alright. Okay, so do these examples. Okay, so we have 4. Let's see. So we have x squared minus 100 equals 0. And then number 5, we have 5x squared minus 20 equals 0. Okay. So, I want you to look at this. Okay. I will pause the video now and we will solve. Okay. So, let's start with this one. So, x squared equals, okay, so ang unang gagawin, okay, transpose to the other side. So, it's 100. Okay. And then the next, we take the square root. Okay. We cancel square and square root. And we get x equals, and the square root of 100 is positive or negative 10. Okay, so we have here x equals negative 10, and then x equals 10. Okay. How about number 5? Okay, let's pause it right now. And then solve it on your own. Okay? So we have, okay. So in this case, again, meron kang coefficient dito. So magkakaroon ka ng 5x squared. Ito, ilipat sa kabila, equals 20. Okay. And then we have divided by what? 5. Okay. This will cancel. This will cancel. Okay. So, x squared now is equal to 20 divided by 5. That would be what? 4. Okay. And then we take the square root. Okay. And then we cancel. So, we have x equals, what is the square root of 4? So, that's positive and negative 2. So, we have x equals negative 2 and x equals positive 2. Okay. Alright. Now, what if ang binigay sa atin ay hindi perfect square? So, let us, and also hindi nagdi-divide. So, let us have some more examples. For example, we have 9x squared minus 16 equals 0. And then 7, we have x squared minus 18 equals 0. Okay, so let's start with number 6 first. Okay, so number 6, we have 9x squared minus 16 equals 0. So, katulad nun dati, we transpose this to the other side. Okay, so we have 9x squared equals 16. Okay, so the next step is what? Okay, so again, we divide both sides by 9. Okay, so divide both sides by 9. So this will cancel. Now, looking at this, 16 cannot be divided by 9, correct? Okay, but, so we just write it as such. So 16 over 9. Notice, class, that 16 and 9 are also perfect square. Okay, so we can already extract the square root here. Okay, so we extract the square root, we get cancel this. Okay, and then we have x equals, okay, so what is the square root of 16? Okay, so the answer is 4. And what is the square root of 9? That is 3. So we have x equals negative 4/3 and x equals positive 4/3. Okay, so yun yung sagot. Okay, so yun ay nangyayari kapag we cannot divide and we notice na pareho yung numerator and denominator are perfect square. How about number 7? Okay, so number 7, we start with transposing 18 to the other side. So that is x squared minus 18 equals 0. So we transpose negative 18 to the other side. We get x squared equals 18. Okay. And then the next step is to extract the square root. Okay, so we cancel squared and square root. We get x. Now, on the right side, we have 18. 18 is not a perfect square. Okay? Pero meron siyang factors na perfect square. Ano yung factors niya na perfect square? Ano bang mga factors ng 18? Ano ba yung dalawang numbers na pag minultiply mo ay 18. So, pwedeng 1 and 18. And pwede ring, okay, 9 times 2. Okay. So, 9 times 2. Okay. Take note, class, na ang 9 dito ay what? Ang 9 dito ay perfect square. So, ano ba ang square root ng 9? Di ba 3? Okay, so pwede yung 3, itong 9, ilalabas natin. Pag nilabas natin siya sa square root, yun ng square root niya. So, ang square root ng 9 is 3. So, we have positive, negative, 3. Okay? And then, square root of 2 is not a perfect square. So, maiiwan siya sa loob. So, 2. Okay, so we have x equals negative 3 square root of 2, and then x equals 3 square root of 2. Okay, so yun yung dalawang sagot.